In the time before the Titans, before the gods of Olympus, a great battle was waged.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my God of War Ascension Titan difficulty video walkthrough. This is the second part to the village of Kirra, and this is actually a pretty tough fight. I say this because the guys with the slings are one of the biggest dickheads in this game, and the birds, the harpy things that do that dive bomb that's always been deadly in every God of War are just as deadly here. And I came off that last encounter with not too much life, so I'm not doing too well. But spam the throw to keep on tossing the harpies. Unfortunately, this game can betray you every so often when the throw doesn't register, and it happens far too frequently for my tastes. But it's not going to keep you stuck there for any prolonged period of time. Just be aware that those enemies can surprise you. Because one of the funniest things about this series, like, aside from the big fights that you know are coming, then you know are going to be difficult, it's the ones you don't expect that end up catching you. The ones where there's loads of flying things with a big thing. They're the ones that are really tricky, because the flying things are just pests and they're easy on their own, but when they're in groups and there's something backing them up, that's when, you know, fights become really annoying. And there's a fight later on in the game with 2 elephants, and there's a bunch of shield guys and just standard enemies you've been killing the entire game. And because there's so many of them, it just makes that entire fight really awkward because you can't move. There's just so many enemies attacking you all the time. And I thought that was one of the, aside from the Trial of Archimedes, that was the toughest fight on the game for me when I was recording, because I just did not expect it to be anything. And it was like being attacked by a hive of bees, just a complete and utter swarm at all times, and you could barely get away from them. It really sucked. But there are chests in the room, and that's the biggest tease. When they put chests in the room and you try and pick them up and you die opening the chest. And one of the best things on the previous games was to go into, you know, Rage of the Titans or Rage of the Gods, because you couldn't be interrupted and you could open the chests. But on this game, it doesn't work like that. It's strange. You get this single attack. There's some very strange changes. And I don't know. Very strange. Yeah, in the previous video, I started talking about the weapons, and I didn't really go into what they changed. I mentioned how they were elemental, but I didn't tell you how that affects the gameplay or what exactly it does. So, you're going to do trials at the beginning of the game, and each of these gods, Poseidon, Zeus, Hades, you know, all that good stuff, Ares, what have you. Each time you do this, you're going to unlock a different element for your weapon, and you can switch between these elements anytime using the D-pad. Be very careful though. You will stop moving when you change weapons, because for some reason Kratos flinches when you change. I don't know why. It isn't intuitive at all. There's no such thing as swapping on the fly for combos, because it just doesn't work. You freeze, you can get punched, it's gay. But you can swap between any of them. And there's fire, there's ice, there's Hades, there's spirit, devil, magic, and there is lightning. And each of these elements, I don't know why I'm pronouncing things strangely. I think it's because I don't know, very strange. But each of the elements make the blades do a different combo. For instance, when you do, you know, 4 squares, you do a standard combo. When you've got lightning, it's a slightly different standard combo, so on and so forth. When you do the plume of Prometheus with square, square, triangle, the end of it's different. For instance, with the ice, there's going to be a couple of spikes come out of the ground, a couple of crystals, you know, icicles. With the fire, it does like a fire explosion. With the lightning, it does a lightning explosion. There's mild differences. The Hades ones are the ones that are the most striking, because it's like Bayonetta. There's a hand that comes out of the ground and does a punch. It's not quite as useful as a Wicked Weave, but it's still pretty good, and it extends the range of these weapons. And one of the cool things about this new system, as I get grabbed by that bitch of a dog, is when you're doing your combos and you're not being hit, you build up your rage meter, you max your rage meter out, and it adds the amplification to your combos. When you do the Plume of Prometheus, it enhances the output and the animation of whatever that weapon is. So for the fire one, it actually leaves a circular crater of fire that after a second detonates, and it's a guaranteed launch pretty much on most enemies. So you can get to this point where spamming the Plume of Prometheus, you can just keep an enemy bounced and just stun lock them, and it does massive damage, and it's so useful. Like, one of the techniques you're going to see me do throughout this game is a spacing technique where I keep enemies at bay with the Plume of Prometheus, and as soon as they get closer, I roll away and immediately do another one, just in case, for when they're running towards me, to stun them. And I just keep them at a distance, and I just keep on bouncing them, because it's the quickest and most damaging combo you can do. But back to the elements, each one of these blades has... I'm trying to think what you would call it. It's like an inherent ability, and when you kill things with these blades, I assume when you do the animations to kill an enemy, the executions, or if you use the magic and you kill things, it influences what orbs you receive. One of them gives you green orbs, one of them gives you blue orbs, one gives you gold, one gives you red, and on paper it sounds like a very interesting system to dictate the orbs you get, which I think sounds like a fantastic idea. But when I've played with these weapons, I didn't see a single difference. I was still getting the same orbs. There didn't seem to be a proclivity towards anything. It didn't seem to change the look of the drop. It just seemed as random as God of War has always been. So I thought maybe there's more to this than meets the eye. Maybe these weapons exist because certain elements are better at certain enemies. Because you'd think, something that looks quite fiery, if I use ice, I'd do double damage. And once again, I've tried these things, and I've not really seen much of a difference. It doesn't seem to add anything to it, so the elemental thing is completely out of the window as it stands, because it just didn't seem to make a difference. And until somebody figures it out later, with the maths and stuff, to see if there is some kind of intrinsic effect that makes fire be ice, I don't think that's even something thought about in the game. This bit right here, watch this. This is me trying to get the one I'm facing, and the throw is failing me. Look at the fucking lock-on. This is one of the worst parts of this game. Just how unreliable the throw is. And it used to be God mode. I don't get it. But these weapons don't seem to have much elemental effect considering they're elements. So their only real use is the extensions of your combos that they do, and how they differ to the standard blades. So everybody's probably going to have a preference. My favourite is the ice one, mainly due to the square combo. When you do 4 squares, it does a knockback attack that can loop certain big enemies, and it doesn't indefinitely loop them because they will do a move that recovers, but you can do it maybe 3 to 4 times. It even works on a boss later on. And it's fast, and it's powerful, and it's directional. It's always in front of you, so it's literally a directional, quick extension of what you've already been doing. So I find that really useful. But the biggest problem with the icy one is the magic, because each of the elements carries with it a different spell when you use magic. And there's a design choice that I really don't understand, and that is you have to fully upgrade these weapon paths to get the access to the magic spell. I think that is fucking dumb. I think every single one of them should have access to it, but every time you upgrade it, it should either make it better, or it should develop it into being a chain command where you press buttons. It shouldn't be buy 4 things to actually use the damn magic. And early on in the game, I got myself into a situation where I was trying to use magic, I had a full mana bar, and the character wouldn't do it, and I couldn't understand why. And it was all because I didn't even have it unlocked, because I had to buy every upgrade to do so. And it's just little moments like that where you wonder, how did they think this was a good idea? It's such a strange design choice. And this is the Gorgon, so any person who's played God of War before will recognise this enemy. She's slightly different in this one, although almost exactly the same. The differences are you have to kill her in a very specific way when you're doing a quick time event. I'll talk about that when we get there. And you can't seem to parry that. You cannot return the stare of the Gorgon to shatter her, which I don't like at all, because you could grab her, she would roll away from you, and then she would try and freeze you. You would use block, you would freeze her, and you would kill her. It was the surefire way of killing Gorgons, and on this game, I don't think it's even in it. So instead, I parry her, I wait for the swipe, I parry, and it always puts her into a stun mode, and then I just go to town because there's no enemies around me, so doing the animation to freeze people is pointless. I don't know how much damage it does to her overall life bar, so instead I just keep her in that animation, and I was hoping to turn her red so I could kill her, and it wasn't working, so I did the grab anyway. But that right there was a fail parry. That was a successful one. It stuns her almost every time if you hit him with the riposte. I actually missed just then, that's why it didn't work. There's a nice pop. There's another stun. And I'm going to beat her up again and it should turn red. There you go, then you can execute her. So, I press triangle on these bits. As soon as she rears up, you want to move away. Like I say, I don't think it's specific what direction you move. I think any direction will work. And when you get to standing, keep hitting her. As soon as she moves away, you want to hold away on the directional. There you go, to duck. And it's very simple. Like, once you do that once, you will understand how to do it every time. And as much as I think it's a good idea, I would prefer just watching Kratos do it and having it being 1/3 of the time it takes to kill them. Because I get very impatient on games, I'm just that way. But my new approach on Gorgons is simple. Hold block. The only move that can get through your block is when they freeze you, and when they do that stupid grab that seems to get you no matter where you are. Like, as long as you're blocking, you're safe. Parry them, stun them, use them to kill the other enemies. They're actually a very simple enemy. And that is quite interesting, because Gorgons were deadly in the older games. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.